All right, with us today we have Michael Kummer, who has provided some review information for LiveO2. So, Michael, have you noticed any changes in your performance physiology since you started using the system?
Yeah, I certainly have. I mean, there are a couple of areas where I feel something has changed, and other areas where I can see the change in numbers, such as, I get my blood work done typically once every quarter, and that includes obviously, red blood cell count, hematocrit, and some of those metrics. And so since starting the system, what I've noticed, and I'm also tracking my biometrics using Whoop and 8Sleep and the Aura Ring and a couple of other gadgets to kind of get an idea of how my body is doing throughout the day, but also while sleeping. And one of the things I've noticed is that in the beginning, my resting heart rate suddenly started increasing. And I wasn't entirely sure why that would be. And then once I got my blood work done, I noticed that my red blood cell count and hematocrit have significantly gone up. So ultimately making my blood quote unquote thicker, so my heart probably has to work a little harder to pump everything through the system until my body has adapted, by creating new blood vessels, etc., to account for the increase in blood volume and red blood cell count, etc. So I've noticed that increase in resting heart rate, and then suddenly it dropped back off again. And the other thing I've noticed is during that peak in resting heart rate, my exercise performance actually went down a little bit. I was getting winded quicker. I'm like, okay, what is going on? But as soon as my body had adapted, my resting heart rate would go down again to baseline. Suddenly, I could sustain. I do CrossFit, as I think I've mentioned before, and so I could sustain certain heart rates during a workout for much longer before I would start falling off, as I normally do at some point. And so that's one thing I've noticed. And then, of course, with my blood work, certain changes in blood markers. And that was really, at the end of the day, if you want to, have something that ultimately proves that whatever you're doing has an impact on your physiology, that's a very clear indication of, you're producing more red blood cells. Your body has more red blood cells to work with. That means the body can, carry oxygen, can carry more oxygen to tissue. And so, yes, I have noticed something, and obviously it's whenever I test new stuff, review gadgets, it's not always easy to really have the impact those gadgets might have in numbers. But in this particular case, I could not only feel the difference, I could see them, in my blood work. And I got this morning, I got another blood work done, another blood panel done, after having used LiveO2 more extensively since the beginning of January. So it's been now exactly 6 weeks. It's roughly, the adaptation time. So I'm looking forward to finding out what my red blood cell count is going to be this time. Hopefully, I'll know in a couple of days.
Well, I seem to recall the last time they were up about 15% across the
20%,
board.
I think, yeah.
Oh my, that's huge.
And that was only after using the system for, what was it, 3 weeks or so? So it wasn't that long. And so, yeah, it's fairly impressive.
How long did you said when you first started, you noticed an increase in your heart rate? How long did that increased heart rate persist until you started to see it fall off again?
It was about 10, 14 days. I want to say within 2 weeks, I recovered.
Okay. Did you notice that after your initial workouts that your heart rate would stay elevated for longer than normal?
Not necessarily my active or my heart rate when I was active. It was mostly while sleeping. So my resting heart rate during sleep was like elevated by, I think it was like about 7 points above baseline.
Yeah, I would suggest that that's actually a telltale for detox. So
Mm-hmm.
when you train with LiveO2 the first time, what's happening is you've got areas of tissue that have been quiet or senescent or semi-isolated from the vascular system, and they tend to accumulate toxins.
Right.
And so, or senescent. And so when you activate them or open those up, number one, they'll quote unquote come back online, but any materials or toxins that have accumulated there over the years, even though you may be in great shape, will wash out. And so the overnight elevated heart rate is, in my guesstimation, would be the liver and your body working to flush or filter out the toxins that have been released from that. And so 10 to 14 days, that would be early. In your early workouts, did you notice or how fast did your performance or ability to exert during your training increase or decrease?
So the decrease I noticed roughly about a week in or so. In the beginning, I actually my performance went up, and I can one of the numbers, with the CrossFit workout, it's every day is a different workout. It's very hard to tell. But on my bike, where I do the same protocol multiple times a week, I can tell that there is one metric that the bike measures, especially during those sprints, and that's my maximum power input. And during the first 10 or so days, that power input has gone up and up and up and up and up. And I'm like, whoa, this is ridiculous. I mean, there does not appear to be an end to this, because every day I would go on the bike, I would be better than the previous day. And that lasted about, again, 10 days or so. And then I saw that the drop off were equally, no matter what I tried, I couldn't get back to the levels that I just, put in a couple of days ago. And so then took a while, and then gradually it went back up to those levels that I had experienced right before it started falling off. So it was like, going up, going down, and then going back up. And since then, I've been hovering in that area, which was better than what I had previously before starting with LiveO2.
Have you noticed your endurance, like since the second peak? How has your endurance changed?
Yeah, so I don't run, or I don't, bike for hours, so I'm not a, classic endurance athlete. But I can tell during CrossFit workouts at a moderate intensity level, where, that I could usually sustain for longer periods before falling off or before running out of fuel, so to say, the period that I can sustain has increased. So I can perform longer, moderate intensity workouts before falling off. With high intensity stuff, I haven't really noticed a difference. So with, where I'm like, from 0 to 100, starting minute one, and maybe the workout might only be 5 minutes long. So it's a classic sprint type of thing. I haven't really noticed a difference there. And also I haven't really, since every workout is slightly different, it's really, really, really difficult to figure out, have I been better than a week before, because it's not the same workout. But I can definitely tell from a heart rate perspective, I can remain longer at my threshold before falling off.
Understood. So I'll offer a hypothesis. So when you're training on LiveO2, what's happening is you're creating a much higher level, or a higher level of turbulence in your vascular system. And so red blood cells that are fragile. So like when you have that initial fall off, basically that was probably your body shedding or breaking down older or more aged red blood cells, and then as you came back up, that was repopulating, and so you're basically trading in those old blood cells for new blood cells. So on the backside of the second peak, I would suggest what's happening there is that your mean age of erythrocytes is less, as in they're younger, therefore they've got a higher oxygen carrying capacity, so your aerobic capability on the backside is better than it was in the beginning. So let me turn that into a question. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
Is it consistent with your experience?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would certainly be that's a fitting explanation. And the other thing, one more thing that I noticed, and that's more of a, not necessarily, physical performance or anything, and it might not even be, sustained mental performance, but I can tell, just the other day, I had a stressful day. In the afternoon, I was really getting like fatigued. I'm like, I just want to sit on the couch kind of feeling. And I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not going to sit on the couch. I'm going to hop on a bike. I'm going to do my cold plunge, and I'm going to, try to get into, a better mindset. I did the bike. I got off the bike, and seriously, for the rest of the day, I felt like $1,000,000. All that mental fog, everything gone. Everything was, I was clear. I was sharp. I was focused, and I was just in a much better mood for the rest of the day. I'm like, you know what? Anytime now that I don't feel awesome, I'm going to hop on the bike, get some oxygen into my brain, and know that I feel better after that. That high that you feel at that point, that's just priceless. My wife uses it too, and it's like, only for that reason she's using the bike and the system, obviously.
How did you feel about the initial support and training and setup support that you got from David?
It was great. I mean, he sent me the system up front. I actually put it together for the most part myself, and then he came on site and helped me make sure everything is correct. I didn't miswire anything. He gave me a couple of training protocols based on my type of training that I usually do. I do CrossFit, and I also have a stationary bike at home that I use. And so based on my training regimen, my recommendations, also my goals, he helped me come up with a couple of different training drills that I can incorporate into my program on a weekly basis, and that's what I've been doing, and it's been going great. In between, I modified some stuff based on my scheduling and how I saw things work out, and so I bounced it back to him, asked him, hey, is this something that I'm would be beneficial? Is this something I need to change? And he gave me great feedback, and along the way, and we fine-tuned the protocols, and I've been doing them since I got the system a couple of months ago.
Normally, when somebody buys a LiveO2 or we put an order in the system, they'll end up receiving a sequence of videos that go through the mundane details, like getting it out of the box, setting it up, how to put on the mask. Did you interact with those materials?
No, I did not. I'm very bad at following instructions and reading manuals. I typically try it myself, and if I can't figure it out, then I go and look at documentation or videos. But it was so straightforward. After the fact, actually, as part of my review, then I went back and looked at some of the stuff. I'm like, well, maybe it could have helped me, if I had known this before, instead of trying to figure it out. But I did look at it after the fact, not when I should have done it, I guess.
Well, that's okay. I mean, if you were able to figure it out, then it was simple enough not to be
Right.
a problem.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I'll call it, how thorough were those materials, and if you would have had questions, would we have answered them for you in advance?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would definitely say so.
Okay, quick question. So, have you been over on our Prime site yet?
I have not.
Okay, so I will make sure you got access to this here shortly. But this is I'll call it our advanced protocol portal. Basically, we've got detoxification. This is a protocol or deck of 5 for people that have taken or having buyer's remorse about having taken shots. There's one for addiction. There's some information about our BrainO2 protocol, neurofusion detoxification system. And then we're building out these about first time, whole body O2, immune O2, and various cancer, anti-aging, recovery for different things, as well as performance, altitude, etc. So you're probably over here more in the high intensity O2 kind of process. When you get in there, so like one of the things that happens is that people in our world end up having needs. So like one of the protocols that we co-developed with Dr. Genosi, who's the founder of Radix, and I would say probably one of the grandmasters of detox these days. Basically, this is an example of a protocol, and if you go through here, I don't know, this is several pages long in terms of everything you need to know. This is our recipe of different strategies for using LiveO2 and combining it with various supplements.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that makes
sense. And training, so it's all kind of engineered, and we've had really good luck with respect to how this goes. So there's you can tell by my scrolling that there's really quite a bit of content here. It's all under development. Another group of things that we're in the process of filling out would be the courses, which is a lot of the courses like BrainO2 or protocols are fairly complicated or difficult. And so rather than just saying, here's a page protocol, here's the things you need to know if you're going to administer one of these. Sorry, not to get off on too much detail, but what I'm trying to just say, okay, as you get into this, it's a pretty deep well in terms of the library of things that you may want to know, especially when people in your community realize you can help them and they say, hey, can you help me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Wonderful. Well, I think we got a really good start. I mean, do you have anything else to add before I wrap up the recording?
No, I think I'm good.